Hello everyone, my name is Thalia and today we're gonna edit some pictures on Pixlr. I'm actually gonna be editing some images I took on my trip to Cuba where I studied abroad for about 5 weeks actually. The reason I'm showing you these specific 3 images is because these are the ones I edited using Photoshop. I'm going to be using Pixlr this time, so I'm just going to compare how my edits change using a different program. So this is Pixlr. This is what the original image looks like. I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is one of my favorite images. Not only my favorite, but I've always gotten amazing feedback from everybody else on these. On this specific one. Okay. I got really lucky with this shot. The way I actually photograph wherever I go, it's always by chance. I never really plan images. I just take my camera and photograph whatever catches my eye. So this is pretty similar to Photoshop as I'm watching right here. Ooh, that's too much. It actually looks kind of weird. I'm gonna hit it cancel. I'm gonna go ahead and try it again. It's not bad. I don't like my images too contrasty. Well, that's a lie, I actually kind of do. Alright, let's snap back for now. So one of the most important things I think about when editing my images is what the colors look like. I'm obviously a color photographer. I love color. Whenever I'm photographing, that is something that always catches my eye. I could take a picture of a tree and when it's in front of like a pink wall, that would make my day. This is way too much. As you can see, I always do these really extreme edits just because I like to see what it looks like. Sometimes I end up liking those type of effects that I have, but not all the time. Maybe if I pull this down. I'm trying to change this up here. Oh, okay. What happens if I add another? Okay, let's go over to the blue. The quality of this image also looks really different on Pixlr than it does on Photoshop. That's not bad at all. The concrete color, it's way too magenta, so there's too much pink in there. So maybe I'll do the color balance. We'll go into the shadows. This image is actually taken inside the Museum of Revolution in Cuba. A really interesting fact is that this museum, the building actually used to be the presidential palace, but when the revolution happened, they decided to change it into a museum. It's actually an amazing museum. It's really well laid out. Another thing I found really cool they still had the original furniture in it, so they didn't really change anything up, which I really appreciated. Alright, as you can see, it definitely changed it up a bit. Go to the midtones. Okay. So if I go here in the history, this is what the image looked like before. And that's what it looks like now. I think that's pretty good. Do want to do some more. This is like one thing I remember with my other image, with this image that I edited on Photoshop, felt like over here was a little too dark. I feel like I was losing her. So let's see what would happen if, oops. This, not just her, this entire area. So as you can see, up here it's pretty bright, but down here it's pretty dark. That happened because it was very cloudy outside, and the building's pretty big, so it caused a shadow over it. Let's see what tool I can use for this. Eraser, one select. No. Whoops. Definitely not that one. Let's deselect that. Is there no overall tool? Oh, okay, the dodge and burn tool. Okay, I want to make it bigger. Oh, this looks very similar to Photoshop over here. Let's see what happens. Oh, perfect. It's definitely burning it. So as I'm noticing, the more you go over a certain area, it will brighten it even more than you originally intended, which I kind of don't like. What if I put the strength down? Oh, I do not like that. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go ahead. Oop. I'm gonna delete these because I did not like how they came out. So I'm just gonna go to the front. Okay, let's try this again. Toning. Have this selected. I think I should also have this bigger. Cool. Oh, but yeah, I took this picture by chance. It was great. And it only took me one click of my finger to get an amazing photo. I'm not really sure why they have soldiers walking around. I kept asking people that. The answer I always got was they just have it there for show, kind of to, I don't know, impress the tourists in a way. Okay, now I kind of understand how this tool works, so I'm gonna go back and do it again. That's the thing with always learning not software. You never really know how it works until you're doing it. Oops. So one thing I've noticed with this tool is, unlike Photoshop, if I go and I click once and I try to keep moving that way just by clicking, it creates almost a dot. But if I just hold it down, it will work a little smoother.
Before you educate the head, try to educate the heart.
So I'm actually gonna change this to darken and see if I can darken this little spot right here that looks really weird. Just a little bit, nothing crazy. Maybe if I make this smaller. I think it's way too small. Let's make this a little bigger. Before I even studied abroad in Cuba, I went to an art school. So of course I know a lot of people who love to travel and take images. One of my friends took an image of this over here, this like light pole. I'm not really sure what it is. Underneath it, it looks like a bunch of cameras, which is kind of creepy. But I saw the image she took of that, and I was like, wow, that is so cool. I really hope I can run into that thing. And when I went to the museum and I went outside to take this picture, on the balcony, I saw the light pole, and I was so excited. I ended up going and taking a picture of it, but I didn't really like it. So this is an image I chose instead, which is fine because I think it's a lot more interesting than it would have been if I had chose this one instead. So I'm not a big fan of this dodge and burn tool, but it's getting the job done. It's not too bad. Because you see how it leaves like these really spotty things? Not my favorite. I'm gonna undo that one. Yeah, I didn't really like this over here at all. Think, yeah, it's way too late to go back on the history and undo it. Maybe that's another thing I don't like about this program. I can't go as far back as I can with Photoshop, but that's fine. I think it still needs some type of contrast, so I'm gonna mess around with the highlights and shadows. As you see, if I pull the shadows down, you can see those marks I made with the dodge and burn. Ooh, this is bothering me a lot. Maybe if I do the shadows here and I brighten it. working a little better. Ooh, not my favorite. In the future, for this next image I'm gonna edit, I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna use this toning tool. Or maybe if I go up here. Yeah, not my favorite, because now it looks as if I try to over edit or edit something out on the street. So, not my favorite. I do like the color a little bit. Yeah, but this editing thing I did not like. I think one of the favorite parts about this image for me is the security guard right here. He almost looks like he's about to exit the photograph. Okay. Not my favorite. But we'll go ahead and save it for now. A big part of my process when I'm editing photos is that I always go back to an image. So I'll save it, I'll have it edited the way I think it's good for that day, and then I revisit it at a different time, either another day or just a couple hours after. A lot of the times, what even works out for me is I'll edit another photo, and when I come back to the first photo I edited, I change my mind and re-edit it. It's always good to do that. You might like your second edit versus your first. So we'll save this. File name, JPEG, perfect. So it saves right there. Not bad. Okay, now I'm gonna edit another one. This one. This is also a favorite picture of mine. A lot of my favorite pictures are the ones I get really good feedback on. This is a really weird photo. It's kind of confusing to a lot of people. This is basically a picture of a picture. So you see this room in here? This is what they want the renovation they're working on to look like. And it's located inside that actual room. It's really weird. Makes me feel like I'm in a sci-fi episode sometimes. The funny thing about this image is I thought it was a mirror right over here at first. I saw it from on top and I was like, what is that? Is that a mirror? And then I realized, wait, I can't see myself, so how can it be a mirror? And just me being really confused about this image, this specific image in the photo, made me want to photograph it. Alright, let's go to curves. Curves is like one of my favorite tools, although it's kind of hard to use here. This curves is very limited compared to the other one. And when I mean other one, I do mean Photoshop. So maybe if I go from down here. Alright. Okay, I like this for now. Let me change up. I'm really lucky that when I photograph, I try to photograph by making it the most perfect image in camera as possible. That way, when I get into Photoshop or any other editing program, I don't have to edit as much, just because it saves me time. But in images like these, I'll definitely have to do some extra editing. So, oh, did I not hit save? Okay, so apparently you have to hit apply and not exit out, which I'm not used to, but now I know. Let's see this. It's pulled. There. What I do like about this specific program is that you can click over here and it'll compare the original and then how you edited it. It's always hard to say. Okay, so I know I said I wasn't going to use this tool again, but I'm going to go ahead and try to use it. Okay, I think I'm going to go even bigger. Alright, I want to change the highlights and I want to darken them. So let's see what happens. Oh, I forgot that when you go over it, strong. Let's make this smaller. No. Let's see. So this is not as clean as I'd like it. I'm usually not usually, I am a perfectionist when it comes to editing my photos. I'm really hard on myself. So the fact that I don't have the full control on this program how I would like is kind of rubbing me the wrong way a little bit, but it's okay. I know the more I use it, I'll get better at it. That's not bad. When I had my photo show for this specific trip, I printed this image really big, I think. Not really big, but it was about this big. So when you stood in front of the image, you felt like you were right in front of the painted room or this large photograph, which is something I love hearing when people tell me that they felt like they were inside of my image because it was so realistic. I love hearing that because that's what I aim for. I always try to capture things as I see them. Alright. That's not bad. Let's see what other tools we have. Color balance. Maybe I should mess around with color balance a little bit. I like this image to be a little bit more yellow. Just because that's the color of the walls. They were like a eggshell or like a cream. And it also gives it that antique type of feeling. Okay. That's that. We can go ahead and save this one. I'm gonna move on to another one. Whoa, that one definitely needs a good amount of editing. So I know on the screen, this image probably looks really blurry. My files are really large. They're about 30 by 30 inches in a file size, so this program has a little bit of a hard time reading it. Brightness, curves. Let's see. This image is, sorry, I lost my train of thought. But this image was taken on top of a monument. I honestly forgot which monument it was. This was a couple years ago, so it's a little hard for me to remember certain things. It was actually raining that day. It had rained like 10 minutes before I took this picture, and this image is actually taken through this like screen, like a glass that was full of raindrops. So I just put my camera really, really, really close to the glass, and I was able to capture this. It's an overview of Havana. I've traveled a lot to the Caribbean, and my favorite thing about the Caribbean is all the colors. As I mentioned before, I love colors. So I always try to make that a focus point even while editing. But the thing is, if you add way too much of one color, it throws the whole thing off. That's perfect, actually. Let me hit apply before it doesn't change anything. I think I'm gonna try to make the sky darker using the tool that I don't really like, and then I'm gonna try something different. Okay, highlights, light it, darken, and let's just I'm gonna undo that. This one actually makes the image look darker, and it kind of gives it a really sad overtone. Oops. So I'm actually just gonna stick here. I like this. I do want to change it up a bit. I'll go to adjustments, maybe highlights and shadows. We can pull the shadows down. It took me for this image about 5 pictures to actually get this one, because I kept getting some of the raindrops on the side in the image. The lighting would be really off, or you could see the texture of the screen, which I didn't like, but finally I was able to get this. Okay, this is not too bad. I'm gonna save this. And they're all being saved right here. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. So these 2 are the ones I already showed you that I edited. These next 2, I never edited them on Photoshop. Just because they weren't my favorite images. They're pretty, but they didn't really do anything for my project. So I want to see kind of what I come up with here. Let's see. Let's do adjustment, color curves, my favorite. When you have an image like this where there's very strong and bright colors, when you're messing around with the color tools, you don't have to move them around as much because it'll make it look way too... If you pull up the pink too much, it'll make the pink look really bright. I don't like this. It kind of feels like this is being lost right here. I like that. The cool thing about curves is like once you know how it works, you could do all these cool things to it. Like change, like look at that. Looks kind of weird, but it does look cool. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay. So as you see, if I move around the red, it completely turns blue. But if I pull it up too much, it doesn't look good either. Wow, this actually makes it more, gives it a little bit of extra contrast. So if I was editing this on Photoshop, I probably wouldn't edit it the specific way. I do think it's like really dark here. There's not a lot of information, which I don't like on this bottom right. I do think it's too contrasty, but it also works well with the colors and the shadow over here. And since I have limited control, well, I personally feel like I have limited control with this. I am gonna edit it this way. I think that's fine for now, but what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna mess around with these filters, see if there's any, what happens when I glamour it. So that's kind of cool. Not bad. Maybe if I do some type of color balance. I still want to give it, I want the shadow over here, this beautiful light. I want to emphasize it using color. Oh, this is midtones. Maybe I'll go to highlights. I like the time of day I took this picture was around the sun was about to go down. So it's called golden hour. So that's when the sun is the most golden, and it's my favorite time of day to photograph. I always try to get that very golden look, and this is the best I could do. This is actually inside someone's house, which is pretty cool. I think this is good for now. I actually really like this image now that I'm looking at it. I like the way I edited it. I'm gonna head and save this. I might even re-edit this on Photoshop, but I do like the way it came out. Okay, let's do another one. Oh, the last one. Here it is, a beach picture. Who doesn't like a beach picture? I forgot what beach this was in, but I can tell you one thing for sure. There's beautiful beaches in Cuba. I love them. I just love beaches, so any beach would be beautiful to me. A lot of people, when they think about Cuba, they always talk about the old cars, you know, the history behind it, the old buildings, the architecture. But I feel like they never really talk about how beautiful the beaches are. They were one of the many of the cleanest beaches I've seen. I didn't really see that much litter. That may change now that there's more tourism. One thing I always do with pictures of the beach, for some reason, I like to give it kind of like a quote-unquote retro feel. I like to almost make it seem like it was taken on a film camera. Because most film has some type of filter embedded in it. Like that. Oh, I really like that. It's not bad. So it seems like I personally like this program more for pictures where there's not a wide range of colors, because as you can see, oops, this one has a lot of colors, right? Oh, I don't know why this, sorry everybody, it zoomed out. But this one, there isn't a wide range, but the way that the way the image was taken, there was a major contrast in light, which is hard to edit even using Photoshop. This is a lot of colors, and this one wasn't too bad because the colors all seem to be the same. This one, amazing. Well, I think I like it. Now this one. Cool. Oops, sorry. I double tapped the... It's like not letting me zoom out of the program. Okay. Wow, I really like how this came out. I do want to see if there's any type of filter to add like a grain to it. Grain, there is. I'm adding the grain, like I said, just to kind of give it a to make it look like it was taken on a film camera. I don't usually do the add grain to any of my images, but just because I feel like this specific one would look good with green. So if you zoom in, you can see those little dots up here. So when I say grain or noise, I refer to those little dots that you see right there. Wow, yeah, I really like how that came out. I'm gonna go ahead and save this again. But what I am gonna do is I want to go back to this one and add some green as well. Excuse me. I know I keep referring back to Photoshop, but Photoshop also has these grain options, which is good. Oops, I do that often. Okay, but that was way too much. All right. You would notice it more if I were to print it out. That's not bad at all. Now that let me finish saving this. Oops. I am very paranoid when it comes to saving images. I've had computers crash on me all the time and not save my work. So that's why I always have to resave it. Okay. Maybe I can, if I add a little green to this, these are not too bad. I really like the warm tone to this image that I created versus the cool tone of this one. If you want to learn more about cool tones and warm tones and how they work with each other, you could always check out the photo classes we give or some graphic design ones that we go through how to use color to convey emotion and what is cool versus warm, which is really important. These are not bad. Okay. I like these. Now let me kind of want to compare them. So these are the downloads. We're gonna move this over to desktop. Let's put this all in here. One, two, oh, there's one missing, my favorite one. Where'd it go? Right here. Okay. So I'm gonna delete this one. Okay, so these, I'm gonna compare now the ones I edited versus on Pixlr versus the ones on Photoshop. So let's open up my favorite one first. This one. Let's make it full screen. Alright, so this is my edit on Photoshop, and this is the edit on Pixlr. As you can see, the color is not that off. I could have definitely fixed it up over here because the colors pop out more here. Let's see them side to side. So as you can see, oops, I'm sorry. It's always a little tricky. Okay. So yeah, here could have been darker, so I could have played with the contrast a little more. As you see down here, that blender tool created this really bad look that I did not like at all. Versus over here, I did it very smoothly. So I definitely like the Photoshop version better. Let's check the other two. So it would be this one and this one. This is the version I edited on Photoshop. This is the one I edited on Pixlr. There's not too much of a difference. I could have definitely brought up the brightness over here. And I could have fixed the sky a little bit. So I definitely do like the Photoshop a little more. But I kind of like, it almost has this like light pastel undertone in some of these colors that I enjoy in the Pixlr edit more than I do here. So when I go, now seeing this color over here, I'm gonna go back to Photoshop and re-edit this image so I can grab this type of color over here. Should be cool. Alright. And I didn't, like I said before, I didn't edit these images on Photoshop beforehand. I did it just now. But the mission for this one was to kind of, these two, to give them a feel like as if it was taken on a film camera. So these two definitely, I think, captured that mood. And what I mean about the difference versus a digital camera and a film camera, Film camera, I believe film captures color in ways that a digital camera never will. But the cool thing with digital images is obviously the technical aspect of it, because even though I don't like the way my digital camera captures color sometimes, which it does a really good job at, I can always edit it and add filters to it to give it the look that I want. And if you want to learn more about filters and the differences between what film photos look like versus digital, could definitely make another video on that. Wow, these are beautiful. Really proud of myself. Sometimes I don't like the way images came out, but this one came out really, really good. Okay. So now I'm gonna show all of them. Sorry, this is kind of all over the place. It's this one, these 4, 5. I guess my overall takeaway from this little project is that Pixlr is pretty good for a free software, which I love, especially if you don't have access to Photoshop. However, I don't have full control over my edit, which is it's kind of important as a photographer. You have to be able to edit things exactly the way you like it. But if you're just starting off with photography and editing, it's definitely a good program to use, especially if you like to create these like contrasty film-like photos. It's funny, the way I edited these images, these two have become my favorite versus these. But I find these more interesting. Okay. That was pretty cool. I wonder, maybe Pixlr is a little different when it comes to editing portraits. Maybe it'd be better. But I guess I'll figure that out the more I experiment with it. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed yourself and you learned a few little tricks on Pixlr and the differences between Photoshop and Pixlr. Don't forget to subscribe and like our channel. Check out the other videos we have up. We have various ones. They're really cool. I've learned a lot just watching those YouTube videos as well, like drawing on Procreate. That was really cool. Yeah, so please subscribe and like our channel. I'll be making a video soon doing probably I'll be using Photoshop and how to do different filter effects to an image. Okay, so stay tuned for the next project.